Puppy puppies.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us today. I've got a special guest, comedian Tim Wolfe from Ohio. He's from the Youngstown, Warren area. So I'm waiting for Tim to join us. So Tim's part of what's called the Youngstown Comedy Syndicate. And that's a group of comedians here in the Youngstown area that put on shows as the Youngstown Comedy Syndicate. Tim's a very, very, very funny guy. He's been doing stand-up with me for quite a few years. So if you've been to one of my shows, there's a good chance you've seen Tim Wolfe. Today, our beverage of choice is 8 Days a Week by Southern Tier. They're a brewery that you can find in Southern Tier, part of New York State, but you can also find them in Pittsburgh as well. They expanded into Pittsburgh, and I think they've moved down south as well. Here we go, Tim. Let's see what's up with Tim. Hello, Tim. Are you there?
Steve, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me, Tim?
Yes.
Is that how every one of these little meetings start? Is that what happens?
Yeah, probably. It has to, because if it doesn't, then you might be quiet the whole time. And then people will be like, oh, I couldn't hear you the whole time. You should have asked at the beginning.
And they wouldn't know. Right?
No, they wouldn't know.
Nice. Right. Thanks for joining me, Tim. Nice to see
Yeah,
you.
thanks for having me. How have you been?
I've been hanging in there. It's been kind of rough the last couple of months. Just sitting around, not doing a whole lot as far as comedy wise, stand up, but
Yeah.
getting other shit done around the house and in life, I guess. But
Yeah, I guess it's been that way for everybody, but I was always just sitting at home doing nothing anyway, so it's kind of the same for me. Except the Chicago thing, that was a trial and ordeal, but I'm back now, so it's fine.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you about that. And you have been doing comedy in the Youngstown market. That's where you started doing stand up.
Yeah.
In the area, and then you moved to Chicago. So you went from like a pretty much a small market to one of the largest in the world. What was that like for you, as far as how people treated you and shit like that?
All the comics that I met in Chicago were really nice to me, and I never really met any comics, even like in Cleveland or anything, that had anything really negative to say about me. I mean, maybe they say it when I'm not around or whatever, I don't know, but I've always just gotten compliments from comics, and Chicago is no different. I mean, I hosted like a weekly show there. Every once in a while on Mondays I would host a open mic called the Navigator Tap Room, and it was like a whistling keg type place where you put your pint glass in the thing and then put the card, and then you put the what was it, Rust Belt Tavern? Did they do that there?
No, that was the Whistling Keg. Right.
Oh,
right.
okay.
Where you serve yourself. Right.
Yeah. But no, it was fun. Hold on. I gotta let my cat gets trapped in my room, and I gotta let her out.
No, that's all right. You get 5 points if your cat randomly shows up on the screen.
Oh, she's gone now.
Right.
That'd be funny if there wasn't a cat here. I just made all that up for no reason.
You're like, I gotta go. Yeah, it's a good time.
No, Chicago was fun. I mean, like I said, I did a couple shows. I did Laugh Factory, and that was fun. But the reason I didn't go to Cleveland is where I think if you're trying to break in like in Ohio, like Cleveland is probably the best way to do it, because that's like the biggest comedy market. So I feel like it was a lateral move almost to go from Cleveland to Chicago, because they're basically the same as far as, I feel like New York or LA, if you want to get serious about doing clubs and stuff, you have to go out there, or you can be a touring comic. But I guess Cleveland and Chicago wasn't like that big of a difference, but I always thought, if I'm going to be like an hour and a half away from my house, why would I just like move there? I would rather just move to a different state than just move like an hour away.
Sure.
And then, so that was my decision to go to Chicago. Plus, two comics that I knew from Youngstown were going to move there in 2018, and they asked me if I wanted to go with them, and I didn't really know them that well, so I thought it was strange that they would ask me. And then we moved to Chicago in 2018, and then they bailed on the lease 8 months into it.
Nice.
And then they stiffed me and my buddy Al on the lease there.
Oh, nice.
So rent doubled. We lost two of our roommates, so rent doubled. I lost my job. I was working at Wrigley Field at the time, and the season had ended, so there wasn't any work there. I was doing a little bit of work at a nightclub, but I didn't have enough money to stay in Chicago for the next year of the lease. But I honored the lease agreement, and I stayed there all of 2018, and then I came back in February 2019. And when they left, they made it sound like it was a problem with our roommate Al. But then I moved back with them in 2020, like back in October, we moved in. Yeah, you see where it's going? And and they did the same trash shit that they did back in 2018, but this time they did it like 2 months into the lease instead of doing it, 8 months into it.
I see.
So yeah, that was kind of frustrating because my one roommate, this is a funny story. He's dating a convicted sex offender. She was a teacher who fucked one of her students. Well, one that we know about, but then there's the whole thing that could have been others. There's emails and stuff. But anyway, the point is that he was like, she was married too when they hooked up.
Of
So he
course.
hooked up
yeah.
with a married teacher who's
Teacher,
banging one of her students.
Sex offender.
And then
Sounds like it's going places.
yeah. And he was like, Tim, do you want to go to Chicago with us? Like, and I'm like, this sounds like a great scenario for all of comedy. And so we were all going to move there, but then she couldn't go because of her parole. So she had to stay here. And so it was just me, him, and his brother. They're twins. And we moved out to Chicago in October 2020. And she was bugging him the whole time to go to, she was like, you need to move back and go to Cleveland because that's where the only place I can go because I fuck one of my students. So so she was in his ear the whole time we were there. He would talk to her at least like 6 hours a day on the phone, and she was telling him to come back the whole time. And she's like, come to Cleveland, come to Cleveland. So we moved there in October. In December, he's like, Tim, I hate to tell you this, but the only job I could find is in Cleveland. And I'm like, well, what a coincidence that is, that the only job you could find is in the same place that your convicted sex offender girlfriend wants you to move to. So in December, he's like, I got to go to Cleveland now for my job. So he bought out of the lease all by himself. He didn't ask me for any money, which if he would have, I would have been like, why don't you take it out of the 2,400 you and your brother stiffed Al and I for back in 2018 when you bailed on the lease, like with 4 months left that time. But he to his credit paid the buyout for the lease, so I didn't have to pay anything on that. But I did have to like move all my shit back to Ohio after moving to Chicago because I thought I was going to be there for at least a year. I'd gotten booked at Zany's in Chicago, which is like a big deal.
Oh man, that is a big deal, man. Yeah,
that's a huge club there. I mean,
What's that?
Zany's and Laugh Factory are the big
Right.
clubs in
The two
Chicago.
big
And I
clubs
got
there, yeah.
booked. I got booked at Zany's. The guy that books the shows there saw me at Laugh Factory and liked me, so I messaged him and I was like, "Hey, do you have any spots at Zany's?" And then that's about when everything shut down again.
Man,
So I
of
couldn't
course.
do Zany's anymore. And I got a job a month into being in Chicago. I got a job at Target, but I couldn't work there because I didn't bring my social security card because I'm an idiot. And so I had to like send it in. I had to send my information in to get a new card to work there, but everything was slow because of COVID. So I didn't end up getting my card for like a month after I applied for the job. But I went to orientation, and then right when I went to orientation is when he's like, "We're gonna move back because I got to work in Cleveland. Their office in Chicago was closed. Blah 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 lies." When really they just didn't want to be away from their daddy for like longer than 2 or 3 months, so they had to move back, and he couldn't be away from his girlfriend. And he was like, "Here's what happened too. They I'm glad this, you could tell I haven't been on stage because I've been wanting to say shit about this for a long time.
You got a little anger build up. I'm
I'm
feeling it.
so fucking mad at these people. Like, I can't believe this happened. I'm so fucking furious that this happened. But yeah, like they told me we're gonna go back. We got a U-Haul and all that. And I was contemplating staying there because I had a friend who was going to be leaving his apartment to go overseas. And he's like, you could stay in my apartment. It's $500 a month and you can have it till April. And I was like, well, that doesn't help me because the job that I got wasn't enough to sustain like a $500 a month lease. Like, I mean, I guess it could have been, but it would have been, it would have been rough to do that. So I, I was entertaining the idea of staying there even after they left. But 3 or 4 or 5 days before they left, I told them like, no, I'm going to be coming back with you. So, and then, but they order a U-Haul that only seats 2 people. And I'm like, well, there's 3 of us. So how am I going to get back? And they're like, well, you're going to have to like find another way to get back. So I called Enterprise Rent a Car and they're like, do you have a Chicago driver's license? Because you have to have a Chicago driver's license to rent a car from us. And I was like, no, I don't. I don't live in Chicago. So I told my roommate, I was like, hey, I don't have a car to get back. So can we find a seat in the U-Haul? Like I'll sit in the back if that's what I have to do, which I heard later that you could die if you do that. So I'm glad that I didn't sit in the
Yeah, I
back of
think
the
you could.
U-Haul.
Yeah.
But I forgot that cars are powered by smoke and carbon monoxide.
All right.
So I was like, I guess that'll be fine if I just sit up front somewhere. So they're like, go to Target and buy a folding chair and then sit it in the middle of the van.
Right.
So I went to Target and I bought a folding chair and then I load all my shit into the U-Haul. The folding chair fits. I load my shit into the U-Haul and then they start like acting all like sad about something. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, well, it's only a 2-seater U-Haul and it looks weird to have a third person in there. We don't want to get pulled over. So we don't think you should come back with us. And they had already moved all the furniture out of the apartment. There was nothing in the apartment. They literally handed me the folding. They handed me the folding chair that I had just bought, and they're like, "Sorry, can't bring it back with us." And I'm like, "Are you really gonna abandon me in fucking Chicago, 7.5 hours away from my house in the middle of a pandemic? That's what you're gonna do right now?" And then my roommate goes, "Well, we're sorry you don't have your shit together right now." And I want to be like, I don't have my shit together. I got a job within a month of being here. Your brother sat on his ass the whole time and did nothing. You talked to your pedo girlfriend on the phone for like 6 hours a day, and then all of a sudden decide to come back. So I don't have my shit together. Like that's ridiculous. And then, so we had this big blow up. They packed their shit and left. I immediately like unfriended them on everything. And I heard that the one guy posted a comment about it on Facebook about the ordeal, claiming that he was like the victim in the scenario, which I don't know what kind of, I don't know what kind of explanation he could have that would make him the victim in the scenario. But I didn't read it because I don't give a shit. I'm never going to read anything that they write. And they're speaking into an echo chamber anyway because they have no friends. They have no, like, they did comedy for a little bit, but they're not like comedians. So the whole thing was just like a big fuck. Like it made me so angry, and I can't even like deal with that shit anymore. Like just thinking about it over and over again makes me upset. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm back. I have a job now, and I'm looking forward to doing comedy when it starts back up. So that's what I'm trying to focus on. But it's still getting abandoned in a city like by your friends is the most ridiculous thing I've ever experienced, and I'm very angry about it, as you could tell from this long rant that I just did. But it's so fucking frustrating, and that's what I've been dealing with the past couple months. So I hope that your time has been a little better than that.
Well, I haven't been dealing with being abandoned in a city, Tim. No, I haven't. So
Well, that's good.
I guess, yeah.
It sucks.
Do you still have the folding chair? Is
Oh man, I thought about beating them with it after they handed it back to me. But then I was like, I don't want to also be in jail in a big city.
Right.
So
Makes sense.
I actually left the folding chair in the apartment. It was empty except for the chair. So I went up there with my chair and sat there for 8 hours fuming because I didn't know how to get back.
Right.
I got a rental car from Budget because they didn't have the same uh, qualifications that Enterprise did. So I managed to get a rent a car from Budget, and I drove back to Youngstown.
No, so what?
You're my psychiatrist right now because I
Well,
don't
that's
have one,
that's fine. That's fine, man. That's
and
fine.
I've been meaning to
What
say shit about it.
what was your take on the audiences out there? Were they different than the audiences in Ohio? Are you
Yeah, I
finding
mean
that?
you could definitely get away with saying more shit like in Youngstown or Cleveland than you would in Chicago. But even Cleveland's kind of, you say certain things. It's all about the buzzwords. If you say a buzzword, they don't even care about the context. They just go, oh, he said this particular thing. But the butt of the joke could have been who they're also mad at, but they just pick out the buzzwords, and then that's what they get upset about. And it was more of that in Chicago, I think, but it wasn't too bad. I never really had like a horrible heckler experience in Chicago.
You like to use those buzzwords. You specifically write jokes that most comedians won't touch, and you're not afraid to go in head first into an audience and just like just I don't
I'm very afraid of it. It's not,
know.
it's just that I don't know what else to say because I don't have the experiences other people have. I wish I had like a wife and kids so I could be like, my wife and kids are blah blah, but I'm just like, what if I just say something silly and then see what people do? So I have to do shit like that because I'm not very smart and I don't have experiences. So I have to say shit that's kind of whatever. But it's not, it's I don't try to do it. And actually, when I first started doing comedy, I only did stuff like that because Eric Cribley was doing it and I loved Eric's comedy. And I was like, let's see if I could be as depraved as Eric Cribley. But he was always much more depraved and much more like nuanced than I was. He did a John Cena joke that was like a 10-minute long. You have to like memorize a monologue to do the joke. And I was always just like, I'd rather just do stupid one-liners like Anthony Jeselnik or Stephen Wright or something, and then just, maybe give him like a weird twist at the end and make it like that. So I started doing one-liners like that. And now, yeah, I do have jokes that are pretty like on the fence as far as political correctness, but I don't think I'm nearly as edgy as like, a lot of other comics are. And I think like some people do say things like that because they think it's edgy, but I do it because I'm like, let's see if I can make a point about something that people want to get mad about, but I can defend. I think if you make a joke about something that's offensive, but you can defend the point, then it's kind of like a rebuttal to like the political correctness of like the culture of it, where they're just like, well, you said this, and I'm like, yeah, well, defend your point. Why am I wrong? Like I had a joke about I don't know if you've heard it. I don't know if we've done it at a show that we've done together, but I have a joke about um like a how everyone loves when the like mentally handicapped kid throws out the first pitch of the game or whatever, but
Mhm.
they don't want him to throw out the last pitch because they have like money on the line or they care about the outcome of the game. So they always hand the ball to like the autistic kid in the YouTube videos, and then he runs into the end zone and everybody's like, look how great people are. And it's like, yeah, but you give that kid the bat in the bottom of the ninth of the World Series and see how great people are when you got like 20,000 people standing up like, get that retard off the field. And then I do that joke, and then people pull out the retard part, and they're like, "Well, yeah, that's offensive." I'm like, "No, I'm saying that people suck." And in that scenario, they would definitely yell that because they want their team to win. So can you argue the point that the people wouldn't react that way? And they can't. They just pick out the buzzwords and they get mad. So I try to write jokes like that where you can't really like argue against it.
Mhm.
And then if unless you can argue against, if you can argue against it, I won't say it. But if it's a good point, then yeah, I'll say it and then see what people think.
Right, right
So
on.
yeah, that's usually how I write jokes. But it's I like being just goofy in general too. So I mean, I'll just say dumb shit to say dumb shit. But the funny the most fun jokes to tell are the ones that have like a good point where people want to argue with you but they can't. I like those jokes.
Right, right. You certainly do get a lot of different reactions from the crowd, and
The
it's
funny
fun to watch. You sit back and watch the different, because in when you go to comedy shows a lot and you sit in the back, you get to see the different types of people, and you can kind of pick them out. So I can almost look and see which people are going to be the ones that are going to be off put by your certain jokes, or get a certain reaction from them, because
yeah.
you certainly do a great job of winning audiences over. When you're on, you are like one of the funniest people on the planet, without a doubt.
Oh wow, thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Steve.
Oh, right,
That's
right.
nice.
And you're just, I mean, it's so funny, and it's just fun to watch you just kind of pick apart an audience too with your different jokes. So it's really been a fun time watching it. let's talk about let's talk about your use of social media.
Oh
And
yeah.
I see you on social media, and you like to write goofy stuff. You like to write, I think, sometimes joke premises or jokes. Sometimes you just whip out stuff off your head. What's how do you use social media, specifically Facebook? That's what
Yeah,
I
well,
like to know.
Facebook's really the only social media that I use consistently. I don't have Instagram. I got Twitter back in October, but I posted on it for a while, but it felt like Twitter was mostly topical stuff, and at least what I've seen, and I don't really
Hmm.
write a lot of topical jokes.
Gotcha.
And if I do, I'd rather just post them on Facebook because I already have people that want to hear my jokes on there, and
Have
people
fun.
on Twitter could probably give less of a shit about what I have to say. So I feel like most of the people that give a shit are on Facebook, so that's where I post all the random thoughts that I have. So I just, I'll think of like dumb shit. Sometimes it's weed related. I'll be high and I'll just be like, what if, what if like I said this? What would people think? But most of the time, I just have dumb thoughts all the time and I post them. And they're never things, well, not never, but they're not usually things I would do on stage because it's one of those things where it's like Pete, you understand like the difference
Mhm.
between Facebook style jokes and actual jokes.
For sure. Right.
It's like a weird thing. It's like you can't do a meme on stage, like it wouldn't work. So like writing jokes on Facebook is a lot like that, where I might have a premise, like you said, but it's not like a fully fleshed out premise. It's like something that I might do the first sentence of it on Facebook and then elaborate on a show. But I'd say like 90% of the stuff that I put on Facebook, I would probably never do on stage,
Right.
which sucks because the people that like my jokes come to the shows, I think, and they're like, why didn't you do, why didn't you do that Facebook joke? That was some good
Right.
shit. And I don't, but I feel weird doing the same jokes over and over again. So if someone knows my Facebook jokes, I'd feel weird doing that joke on stage.
Right. Yeah, there is a difference between being funny on stage and being Facebook funny.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
a difference.
Facebook funny. My brother did the same thing. My brother had a big thing where he was like, he actually called me and he's like, "What are you doing in Chicago? You need to like get an actual job." And I'm like, "I'm trying to do stand-up comedy." And he's like, "Well, I've seen your jokes on Facebook, and I don't think that." And I was like, "What? You see, he's never supported my comedy." And now he sees my Facebook jokes and goes, "Oh, that must be what he's saying in front of people." And it's like, no, but even if I was, it's not like people hate the jokes. In general, I feel like people like the jokes. He's just like, oh, I don't get a lot of them. And I
Mhm.
told him, I was like, it's because you're dumb. Like
Right.
it's because it's because you don't know a lot of things. And even though the shit I post is dumb, I'll do like references to things that people, unless you watch a lot of movies, you might not get some of the references.
Right. Oh, sure. Right. Right.
But it's not brain surgery either. I just post goofy shit that people laugh at, and he's
I
like,
just you. So you're serious, man. Your brother does not. He think he's never like come seen your shows in a while, or doesn't
well,
watch
he's
videos.
50 years old and he's 17 years older than me, and he lives in Alabama. So he doesn't really get a chance to come to any of my shows, but even when
I
he
see.
comes around,
I
he
see.
doesn't like come to
Gotcha.
any of my shows. He's never supported every time I tell him I like when I was an actor and he's like, you know how hard that is? And then I was like, I want to be a screenwriter. He's like, you know how hard that is? And it's like, no, I don't know how hard that is. I just assumed I would fucking walk into California. And that's why I never went to California because I was like, I'm not ready to I'm not good enough to do this yet. So I want to like wait until I'm good enough to do it, which is what surprises me when comics, they're only like 1 or 2 years in or like, I'm moving to California. And then I turn into my brother where I'm like, you really think you can do that? Like, you just think you can do that? It's not that easy. I'm like afraid of failing so much that I just never left Ohio and I've just always stayed in my house doing nothing. So that's my fear. And then my brother just like adds to the fear by being like, I'll tell you what, you're never going to be Leonardo DiCaprio. And it's like, yeah, I've looked in the mirror. And he was like, you're never going to be like this person. And it's like, I know, motherfucker, like that's not the point. The point is that I don't know what else I can do if it's not writing or comedy. Like I got fired from sandwiches. You know that story.
Yeah.
Like I can't do anything that's actually like I'm very dumb and I'm not good at actual real jobs. So if I can't be a comedian or a writer, I'm going to be homeless eventually. Like I've already decided that that's just going to be what it is. I can't. I'm too dumb. I can't do anything other than be stupid and make people laugh sometimes. So that's what I'm trying to do. And my brother just cock blocks me. It's ridiculous.
For sure.
I do love weed though.
Mm. There's nothing wrong with that, Tim.
It was recreational in Chicago, and now I come back here and it's not.
Yeah, it's illegal for you now, buddy.
Yeah,
Illegal.
I can't do it now.
Let's see. Yeah, talk about. I actually put here. Talk about your brother. So we already talked about that.
Yeah, we
You
already
brought him
talked
up,
about that guy.
and that's something I didn't know about. Relationships are consistently a theme for you in your stand-up comedy. I haven't
Yeah.
talked to you in a while. Where are you? I imagine you're probably single right now. I don't know.
The problem is that being a 34, I'm 34 now. Jesus,
34.
being a 34-year-old man who has no prospects for the future and still lives at home, you really like attract the kind of people that like are not going to be super like awesome because it's like I'm not super awesome. So why would I'm not going to sit here and expect somebody that has their shit together when I don't have my shit together here. So it's just hard to date because either people are like, why are you such a loser? Or it's like, why are you like, I'm never going to be good enough to be in a relationship until I'm at least out of this house, which is what I was trying to do in Chicago. And I did it for a little bit in Cleveland. I had an apartment there that I never stayed in for like the 4 months that I was paying the rent. But because I just make horrible financial decisions. But I had a girlfriend last year and we broke up. I actually signed 2 leases last year. I moved in with her, and then 2 months into living with me, she was like, "I'd rather just live by myself." And then I signed the lease in Chicago with those guys, and they were 2 months into that, they were like, "We're gonna go back to Ohio." So I mean, I guess that the what's that thing? Like if you have bad roommates, you must be the bad roommate. Is that thing?
That could be the case. Tim.
But really, I think it's just that I probably am better living by myself, but I'm also not an asshole when I live with people. I think with the girl that I dated, she just wanted to like she said she'd never had her own place before and I used too many paper towels. So I guess I guess that's why it didn't work out. But she's actually the only ex that I've had that's wanted to maintain contact with me afterwards. We still talk like every other day or whatever. So we're like friendly with each other, but no, I'm not seeing anybody right now. No.
No.
You get nervous on stage still, or is it? I mean, I feel like everybody gets nervous, right?
Right before you go, yeah, especially right before you go on, I get butterflies or whatnot. For the longest time, I would always think, oh my God, I forget everything. The moment I walk up on stage, I'd be like, all right, I just forgot my 20-minute set. You know, but to compensate for that, I usually bring a note card, so, and,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
some
I've never met a comic that says they don't get nervous before they go on stage. I mean, everyone still, I feel like it's not as bad as when you first do it, like when you first
right.
go up.
Where you're
But
like,
it's still, you never know what crowd you're gonna get if they're gonna be into it or not. And then who wants to stand up there for like 20 minutes and have people stare at you like you're an asshole or just be dead silent. So there's always that fear. And I
right.
think that fear is kind of what keeps me from doing it more than I do. Is that I've never like I envy the confidence of comics that are like, I want to do it all. When I get off stage, I can't wait to get back on there. I'm like, I really just hope people stop looking at me and stop expecting me to say funny things. But when you're on stage, they expect it. So it's like, okay, for 20 minutes, I have to be interesting.
Was
What's the
funny.
weirdest show that you ever did?
Well, I did a show at a strip club once.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I called ahead and had them, so they knew what was going on. And I this there's this place in Pittsburgh that has what they call karaoke. It's like karaoke night at the strip club. And so they let guys come up and sing, and the strippers dance to the guys singing. So I thought, what if I did like a stand-up thing, and have the girls up there with me, right? I thought that would be kind of fun. And so I called ahead, and they were like, "Yeah." The girl was like, "Come on out." Yeah, the head girl, and so she let me get up on stage, and they like stopped the strippers. They all stopped. They were like, music stopped. Here's comedian Steve Swanson, and then they pull me up. I walk up on stage, and there's guys sitting there, with their dollars, looking for the girls, and they're looking at me, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing here, man?" And I'm like, "I'm a stand-up comedian." They're like, "Get the fuck off the stage." I'm like, "No, I'm gonna be funny." And by the end of the set, though, they were high-fiving me. They wanted to know when my next show was. I totally like took them from "get the fuck off the stage" to, they wanted to be my best friend. I don't know, having fun with the strippers on the stage too didn't hurt. But yeah, it was a good
That's
time.
a weird scenario.
That was a weird, it was a weird thing. It was a great experience. It's something that, I didn't make any money at, but geez, I think that's when, as a comedian, doing a show in a strip club is I think that's, that sets you up here, Tim.
It does, because
Sets
it's
you up
like
here.
it's like polar opposites, because everybody goes to strip clubs to see strippers, but even people that come to comedy shows don't necessarily want to see a particular comedian. So it's like they want to see strippers, but they don't want to see comedy. So it's like polar opposites. So it's
Right.
just like, what do you even do? You like, if someone finds out there's a comedy show in a random bar, they're gonna get pissed. But if they find out like, hey, there's strippers coming, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, I'll hang out for this. We should actually do that. We should say there's strippers coming, and then it's just like me, you, and Aaron Scardina and Jason Moliterno doing comedy. They're like, you said there were gonna be titties.
Right.
It's like, no, it's just us.
Surprise.
You should that those shows at Crooked Tongue that you do are really good. Is that what it's called, Crooked Tongue?
Crooked Tongue Brewery, yeah, that's on
Yeah.
Hindenburg, Pennsylvania. They have a full menu. Was just out there last week. They have a great beer, good menu, good food.
Think of what I did 2 shows there. I don't know
Right?
how many you had, but I think I did 2 of them.
Yeah, we had three or four of them. Yeah.
Those were 2 of the like most fun shows I've done. So that was a good experience. It's just weird to see a brewery like that where there are so many people paying attention to you, and
Right.
they I feel like they all paid attention there. So that was cool.
Right. Right. Yeah, they were very much fans of stand-up comedy, and that's what I really appreciated about those audiences. Like you said, they were all, everybody in that whole place was, attention was on you. You had the spotlight, and it was a free show too. So that's even rarer. A
Yeah.
standing room only free show where the bar is absolutely quiet, looking in at the show. Good times.
Yeah. That was a good show.
Right on.